You all are welcome to this online class, and as we have discussed in our Zoom meeting that we will be starting with the chapter of coordination, and you have already studied this chapter in your class C2, but you wanted to revise this one. I have already taught this chapter to boys, but they can also revise with you. And this chapter is actually, this part of the book is composed of three main chapters. The one is called nervous coordination, the second part of that is known as receptors, and the third part of that is known as, it's called the endocrine system, or it's composed of the different types of the hormones are included in this one. So to understand the concept of coordination, we must know that what is basically coordination means. Coordination is actually the harmony in the different body organs. So we can say the harmony in organs mean that different body organs are working in coordination with each other. So that we have to discuss in this. So we discussed the coordination, and it is called harmony in the organs. So as I told you that coordination can be divided into nervous coordination and chemical coordination. The nervous coordination is further divided into CNS and PNS. CNS stands for central nervous system, and this is further composed of brain and spinal cord. And PNS stands for peripheral nervous system, and this peripheral nervous system is composed of all the neurons or the nerve cells of the body. Whereas the chemical coordination, which is there, the chemical coordination is brought about by hormones, and hormones are produced by the endocrine glands. There are many different endocrine glands located in the different parts of body. Like there is a pituitary gland, thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, pancreas, and gonads. Gonads are composed of testes and ovaries. So hormones are producing carrying out the chemical coordination, whereas nervous coordination is carried out by brain, spinal cord, and the neurons. So we have discussed the neurons. So neurons are of three different types: sensory neurons, relay neurons, and motor neurons. The structure of neurons or the nerve cell is one of the main points that we will be discussing in this chapter. We will be discussing in this chapter in detail about brain. This is very important. I will show you the model of brain, and then spinal cord. There is a very important diagram related with the spinal cord, and with the spinal cord there is a concept of reflex arc, and reflex action is also related with this. So that we will be discussing. And the structure of neuron, I will show you the brain, and there are some of the components. Before we continue this or start or discuss about brain and anything else in this chapter, there are some particular terms which are very important to understand. So we will discuss about those terms, and they are called the components of the nervous system. So components of coordination. So there are 5 basic components of coordination are there. First of all, and why we need to understand these components of coordination, because we will be using in all 3 chapters of coordination, we will be using these terms: stimulus, and the plural word for this is stimuli. We will be using the word receptor so many times. The second chapter is composed of receptors. We will be using the word effector, and in all the MCQs, even in the MCQs of CIE, you will see that you will be using all these words, even in the structured question, essay type questions. So then come the receptors, effectors. There is another term that is called response, and then come the stimulus response model. So stimulus is defined as any quantitative or qualitative change in the internal or external environment is known as, it's called the stimulus. For example, if there is a rise in temperature, For example, if the we turn off the fans or we turn off the AC, so right after that then there will be a rise in the temperature. So that rise in the temperature is known as, we call it the change in the external environment. But for example, if we are taking our meal, so right after taking the meal, the blood glucose concentration also rises. So that one is known as the internal stimuli. So when the blood glucose level will rise, so that is an internal stimuli and there will be a response for this. And when the temperature increases, it's the external stimuli and there is a change in this, there is a external, due to the external environment, there is a lot of change will be there in this one. So this is the change in external environment is known as, we call the word that is called stimulus. The plural word for that is called stimuli. So these stimuli are received by the receptors. So receptors are the organs which receive the stimuli. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, skin. These are the receptors. But in O-level syllabus, we will be discussing only about the eye and the skin. The skin is included in the chapter of homeostasis. You might have studied that. We can even revise that chapter of homeostasis also. Eye we will be discussing in detail. I'll show you the model of eye also. And there is an animation related with the working of eye. We will be talking about that also. And after receptors, and these receptors are also called sense organs. So effectors are the organs producing response. So the organs producing response are two organs which are producing response. There are the muscles are there and the glands. And what those glands are called? The glands are called endocrine glands. So effectors produce the response, and response is actually the reaction of an organism. Reaction of an organism is called the response. For example, if the lights are, if the AC is turned off, then what will be our first reaction? We will try to get some air, somehow we will go and open the window or we will go and open the door. So that is our reaction. And for internal stimuli, the body is producing the reaction itself. When the glucose level will be very high, there will be a hormone will be secreted, and that hormone will be converting the glucose to glycogen, and the hormone is known as insulin. This is also included in our O-level syllabus. We will be talking about that also. And then now this is a term you might have not studied this before. It's called stimulus response model. It's very important that to every stimulus there will be always a response and no stimulus remain unresponded. So these are the few very important things that we need to learn, and all these things, these terms, the components of the coordination, this you need to understand. You can, the final thing that I want to tell you, that after watching this video, this video, you can revise this thing. You can see this video again and again, and then if you have any questions related with this video, you can give me. You can ask those questions in our group discussion. One by one, you can ask, and I'll definitely. After reading, you will be having some problems from your book, so you can ask that how you can understand these concepts very clearly. Thank you very much. This is end for today's lecture.